It's me, Duke Nukem, and I'm back to review another episode of Star Trek Picard. Suck me. No, I'm just kidding. Imagine, though, if Duke Nukem was to do a review of Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 2. But anyway, that's what we're up to. Season... I don't even know. This doesn't feel like it's part of the other two seasons to me. So it's like so weird to say that. Season 3, Episode 2. I gave Episode 1 a 7 out of 10. I really pretty much overall liked the episode. It's the best Star Trek I've seen so far now, and it kind of gets better when you get part 2 and when you start getting into it here. Until this point, we're not going to backtrack. We're going to go right into Star Trek Picard. So at the beginning of this, the first thing that we got this classic rock music playing, almost like, Guardians of the Galaxy or something, and Jack is here, and he's on the Mariposa, or he's part of the Mariposas, which is annoying because that's literally from last season, the second season, where, nobody, I don't even want to have to think about it. And by the way, I thought that universe didn't really exist, but it did really exist. So anyway, I'm just going to ignore that because that hangover from season 2 is somewhat annoying to me. And Beverly just happens to be part of it. It's just kind of weird. But anyway, it's a nice little tie-in for people that actually want to treat, seasons 1 and 2 as if, they're really very real, and I just will not do that so I can enjoy this. The Fenris Rangers, or the Feniac Rangers, or whatever they are, that I also don't care about them either. I find them annoying. They board him, and they're searching his stuff. This is a flashback to 2 weeks earlier. Okay little scene to give some backstory to Jack's character. I like this idea by the writing to sort of backtrack for a second and then to just add a little bit and then come forward back to where we left off. They don't just go right into where we left off. Luckily, it wasn't too long of a scene. And then we get little things, little hints. And by the way, I didn't say this yet, so spoilers. Very big spoilers. So don't watch this video if you don't want to be spoiled. We get these tip-offs several times leading into the big reveal at the end, where Jack is sort of sarcastic to Picard. He's like, "Well, you're Mr. Admiral, right? And it's nice to it's sort of nice to see you, finally, almost." He's saying that. He also says something in French before this, I think, to the Fenris Rangers. I think he says something in French to them. So there's several tip-offs, leading into, the big reveal. One thing I'm starting to learn about Captain Liam Shaw is that he's very erratic. You know what I mean? Let me just brighten up the screen a little bit. Oh, by the way, there was a problem with the saturation in the video. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but in the first episode, it was very dark and it was very plain looking. And then in the second episode, it was dark, like the contrast had been turned up, but also very saturated. Everybody looked very orange. And we were able to confirm several people. I don't even know what's been confirmed, so I'm not going to say who told me, but I know for a fact that this is a mistake they're trying to fix. Something is wrong with the episode 2 upload. And I don't know how public that is yet, but several people on Twitter have been mentioning it. And I've spoken with people who worked on the show, and a lot of people saying, yeah, there's something wrong. So I don't hear a lot of people talking about that, but yeah, there's something wrong, and they're trying to fix it. So if you noticed it looking different or weird, I thought it was weird because I turned my brightness way up and some saturation up myself from the first episode being so hard to see. I was like, all right, let me turn this up. So then when episode 2 played, I was like, Jesus, what the hell? What is going on? I must have turned this up too high. And then I said, whatever, I'll fix it later. But come to find out I wasn't wrong. It's something, there's a problem. And they're apparently trying to work on it. Anyway, so yeah, let's turn the brightness up here a little bit. But there's Captain Liam Shaw, man. He's the only thing about him is he's so erratic. 1 second he's super serious and stern and scary and whatever. then the next minute he's like, when you're starting to sort of see, and obviously it's given away by Vatic, but you really are starting to see that this guy, he reminds me of people I've met in my real life, is so obsessed with order and things being done orderly into the book. And I think part of that is because his mind is chaotic and he's got maybe some issues there, which, again, I don't really know if I like that whole thing with mental status. I mean, you're a captain of the Titan, but you've got mental issues. Those things are supposed to really have been solved in this time period. So, I don't know about that. People's mental state is supposed to be fairly clear. I mean, where's the counselor on the ship, But, so yeah, these are all little things, but I do like, you're starting to see, this guy, I can see how this guy's like neurotic and maybe a little unstable even, so much that he has to have this order or he kind of unravels. So he's much more vulnerable than when you first meet him. You're like, wow, this guy is a badass and he's stern and he's to the book and he's that dad who gets you up at the, but there's actually, he thrives on order because without it, he really apparently devolves maybe into chaos. So interesting, build with him. So he, then, 7 of 9 is like basically like you're going to let these two legends, die, they're in trouble type of thing. As Vatic's ship shows up, and you can see how overexposed, it is. Look at this thing. I mean, my screen is overexposed more anyway, so it's not, but it did look very crazy. So it's, I love the shot of them being fired on. I love what's going on here. I'm very interested. And then all of a sudden we cut to the Raffi stuff, and every time they cut to Raffi, I'm just like, oh no. But every time they cut to Raffi, I'm like, oh no, because it was more about the drugs and I'm looking for things and stuff like that. But we're going to get a payoff in a little bit. So Raffi's communicating with her contact, who we all guessed was Wharf, and everybody was right, obviously. Then we cut back to Shaw, and, 7 is like, you could save these legends instead of, you could help them. And so she really puts it on him. And in that time, they decide...
I'm reading 4 left.
Oops. They decide that they're going to go help. And I love that, Picard starts setting up inhibitors, transport inhibitors. And I was like, oh, that's great. I mean, Picard is acting so much more like Picard. He's not just some, like, guy doddering along, following everybody else. Like, but, so I like that. And I really liked when they got beamed up by the Stargazer. No, it was by the Titan. When they got beamed up by the Titan, I love that they couldn't beam them up. And then they remembered, oh, the inhibitors, you know what I mean? Like, I thought they were just going to get beamed up and nobody was ever going to think about that. There's so much... There's obviously a lot of stuff that gets missed and that gets forgotten about or doesn't get addressed, or there's mistakes that happen. That goes on in all Star Trek. I mean, if it's little mistakes and things like... I don't even know if it's a mistake, but everybody is like, at the beginning of episode 1, Beverly's like, oh, all power to the warp core. And everybody's like, it's the warp drive, not the warp core that you would send the power to. So, things like that. I don't even know if that's true. Like, I'm not even that much of a dork to understand that. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm obsessed with Star Trek since I was a little kid. But I think, yeah, it's true. You put the power to the warp drive. But either way, maybe she misspoke, but the computer understood what she meant. And who cares? Like, as far as that goes, when there's mistakes like that, it's like, okay, I don't know if that even is a mistake for some people. But there's so much attention to detail and other things that would normally be like, who cares? Or it's a mistake. There's the limited, you're going to have mistakes. You're just going to, unless you hire a crew of 100 dorks to watch, and I get, in which, you try your best to get everything right. I know they did. This is the most try hard to do everything right Star Trek that I've seen since Berman. So I appreciate that. So I don't want to harp on these little things when they get so many little things right and so many tie-ups and tie-ins and little things right. You know, when there is a little thing that's wrong. TNG had tons of mistakes where you're like, well, that doesn't make sense actually if you think about it, because they did. But they sold it so well and the stories were so good, that didn't matter. And as long as the story is good enough to overcome some of that, it should be fine with most people and you should be able to get over it. But anyway, they can't get transported. So Picard shoots the transporter so they can get transported eventually. But backing up is like an epic, cool scene where they're like, oh, you know, we're in trouble. That's it. Nice knowing you. I think Jack says something about good to finally meet you. Hold on.
Power failure imminent.
Well, it was nice meeting you.
Right there. Good. It was nice meeting you. And that's another foreshadow, right? And Picard looks at him and, you know, and like I said, you know, Riker almost figures it out right away. And Picard is still kind of like almost in disbelief about it. And nice meeting you, nice knowing you. And they're like, wow, we're really, you know, it's like a hopeless. And then the Titan shows up and Riker's like, something crazy's coming in. And then boom. And it's, you know, a little reminiscent of when I thought it was more reminiscent. Many people said it was very similar to like First Contact where the Enterprise shows up. And it kind of is like that. But I even think, you know, as much as I don't love the J.J. Abrams Star Treks, I don't really love them that much. They're all right. And luckily they're in a different timeline, so I can pretend they don't exist if I wanted to. But, man, this does remind you of the hero shot when the Enterprise shows up at the end of that movie with the music playing and guns blazing. This is very reminiscent of that. And let me just try to tone it down a little bit here so you can see. But that shot is of the start of, I keep calling, what's wrong with me? I keep calling the Titan the Stargazer. But the Titan just shown blasting in and separating the tractor beam is pretty badass. It's a little ridiculous, but it's badass. Do you know what I mean? Like, this wouldn't have happened back in TNG and the TV show, really. They would have just shown up there, you know what I mean? And been like, you know, target their tractor beam or something like that, you know, whatever. But no, this thing just bullies its way in like, we're here. What's up? So I love it. And I love it, you know, how I like how Captain Shaw's interactions and reactions, they get beamed over after Picard shoots out the transport inhibitor, which, by the way, just paused it. Look at that shot of that plasma blast hitting the... It's pretty cool. So, great stuff there. I like the transporter room, by the way. I think the transporter room is pretty cool. The transporter effect is great. We don't talk a lot about that, but I like the transporter effect, how it's kind of like it's sort of a mix of all the transporter effects I've ever seen in a way. It has a little bit of that Stardusty look from the TNG originals, and it's got a little bit more of these bold lines that happen. We could do a whole thing on the transporter effect. But they beam over to the Titan. That's cool. We go back to Raffi. She talks about her son and her with her, you know, whatever, the drugs, and she's got to get the drugs, and I'm kind of tapping out a little bit here. I'm like, ugh, whatever. I don't care about Raffi. And then we finally meet Vatic, who is, God damn it, do I love Amanda Plummer. Jesus, I'm having strokes. Guys, I'm having strokes. I like having strokes. No, but I'm having strokes right now. And Amanda Plummer, not Amanda Palmer from the Dresden Dolls. Love her. She's so freaky here. Like, literally a horror. Like, there's a horror aspect to her here. I mean, like, more than I expected. She's not just the, like, I'm the bad villain. Hello, I'm the bad villain, and now you'll do this. She's got even more of that. It's a little cartoony at first, because it's just so playful and creepy. But it becomes uncomfortable at a certain point. And the fact that I felt uncomfortable, I was like, wow. Like, dude, I'm smiling. I know that's messed up, isn't it? To smile because somebody made you uncomfortable. But that's what you want. You want to feel things when you watch movies. If Amanda Plummer, the directors or the writers, were watching my review right now, I would say that they should feel elated because I was emoting in my brain like excitement and fear. In my head, I was feeling like uncomfortable by her. So, and it's a movie. It's a TV show. Feels like a movie, budget of a TV show. Wonderful. And I'm sure she's going to get better. Very uncomfortable serial killer, natural born killers. Just wild stuff. We could get into the dialogue, but I don't want to hear. This is sort of my overview. I could get into dialogues and things later, I think, but her dialogue is just written really, really well. A lot of the writing on this show is written very well, in my opinion, and well thought out, methodical, good stuff, and then it's delivered as well. It's not often, and not everything ends up this way, obviously, I'm sure, if you could ask the directors and the writers, but when you're able to write an idea, all the conversions that have to happen for this to be good, right? You have to have a good idea. The actor has to believe the good idea and agree to it. Then you have to have the actor execute the idea on screen. Then the editor has to edit everything the right way. The setup has to be the right way. Stuff has to play the right way. The actors have to connect. The actor has to make all these connections have to happen in order for the original good idea that you had written down somewhere on paper or talked about in a writer's room is now playing out and being executed the right way. You know what I mean? And I would say the execution on this show at this point is wonderful. Because you need that execution or what you wrote and what you did and what your idea was doesn't work, or it doesn't work as well as you thought it would. And by that time, if you're in editing, you know, it's too late. And in many other cases, it's too late. And eventually something whittles down into, well, we hope for that to be a nice 100% scene, and it's whittled down to 70% because the actor didn't quite get it, and the writing, you know, was we thought was good, and it didn't work between, you know, whatever the hell. All these things can go wrong, and it's just so well done here. So I have a lot of appreciation for what happened here. I love Captain Shaw's, you know, like, well, I was sleeping and then everything until this happened, and that was really cool. Vatic gives them an hour to think about it. I love her talking about time and the solar system. They're all looking to Jack like, who are you? Why do these people so insane to get you? You know, what's going on? Vatic throws a ship at them, which is a little bizarre as well. These are all things that I think like movie, right? These are the things that make me think this is such a Star Trek movie. You know what I mean? Like in the TV show, you don't see a lot of this sort of craziness. And does it make sense 100%? Not really, but also people do crazy things and villains do crazy things, and just, I'm going to throw a ship at you. And they explain that somehow the kinetic or the energy can break the shields. Somehow it broke the shields. There's a little line from LaForge here. Oh, God, what's her name? It's funny because Picard always forgets her name, and I can't think of her name either. It's like, I could look it up right now and cheat, but I forget. Selma, Silly, Soy, shit. It's not that, but I don't remember her name still. But anyway, LaForge, his daughter, she starts sputtering stuff off that she heard from her father, and it sounds so LaForge, like what she says. Like I'm sort of in my mind, like I don't necessarily know if I don't really buy that a ship was just thrown at the Titan and blew through the shields and whatever. And then she literally sputters some kind of technobabble that Geordi would use in a show where you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, because Geordi would know. I believe this now. They did this through Geordi LaForge's daughter. I thought that was amazing, kind of. I know that, I don't know, bro. I thought that was really cool. Like, you got me full mark at this point. You know what I mean? Like, this show is just constantly like doing little things like that I'm like, thank you for doing that. When they remove the inhibitors, thank you. You remembered there were inhibitors on. Thank you. You just explained, like, even if it's not a lot of people may still question it. At least they tried to explain that, and they used LaForge. Like, great stuff. That's really good. So, you know, I'm definitely going to miss a few things here, and I'm sure I'll come back and review this again, but, you know, I want to give my rating, and I want to go through this episode. I love Riker's telling Picard, he's like, come on, you know, Jean-Luc, you don't see what I see. And I know there are some things done here a little bit for the plot and for the build-up, for the story, for the reveal, right? And now, why doesn't Riker just come out and say, like, Jean-Luc, is that your son? You know, it's like, so he doesn't do that because you don't want to, but they cut away a lot of times too. So it's one of those things. I like it. It's a show, and it's really building the suspense by it being brought up this way. And also Riker in real life, maybe he doesn't want to say it. He's, you know, you say it, Jean-Luc, I'm not saying it, you know, type of thing, which is believable actually in reality. So I like this. I love Jean-Luc is thinking about it. You know, we know how much he wanted the family would go on in generations. And how much he really did want to let his, you know, allow his family to continue and to go on, and there'd be no more Picards and that sort of thing to him. And this is big, you know. And so he's thinking about it. And they go to, and a lot of people say, well, why didn't they just get a DNA sample? You know, they're all trying to figure out who this guy is and whatever else. Well, a lot's going on, and they don't have a lot of time. But also, I don't think it's necessarily that's something that they would right away be like, we need to get a DNA sample of him. You know, there's nothing that's really saying that they have to do that yet, really. I think we want a DNA sample of him. A lot of us out there who care about who is this guy and Picard's son and all these things, everyone's like, why didn't they get a DNA sample of him? Why didn't they do a DNA? Why would they? Why would they do that? And I think it's you and us thinking, like, just do a DNA sample. Well, no, that's not. Why would they do that? So, you know, I don't think that they needed to, and maybe I'm missing something. I could be misremembering some of the episode. I haven't watched it back enough times yet. I'll probably notice more things later. But, you know, I get why I'm not really hung up on the DNA thing. I mean, I thought it too, but the reason I was thinking about, well, just check his DNA, the reason I was thinking that is because I'm a fan of the show, not because that's logical on this starship to do that. You know? This actor looks really believable too, if he is the son. And that holds up. He really does look like a mix of, you know, Patrick Stewart and Gates. So it's kind of crazy. Good job there. My wife brought up that he's an actor in Outlander. He's a bad character in that. So she's like, it's weird to see him in a sort of a good guy role, maybe. Also, Outlander, if he's on that show is written by, oh my God, he wrote First Contact, I think, with Berman and everybody. He wrote tons of stuff. Ronald D. Moore. So apparently this guy's on a show that Ronald D. Moore is the writer of. Kind of a crazy little tie-in. And now this guy's working with Patrick Stewart, who Ronald D. Moore got to start with. Now we go back to Raffi. And oh my God, bro. Oh my God. Listen, I never liked the Ferengi ever. I hate the Ferengi. They've always irritated me. Dude, this guy is incredible. Let me tell you something. This scene is great. And seeing a Ferengi on screen actually was exciting. First of all, I was like, oh, damn, like, that the makeup is really, like, this guy really looks good. That's a Ferengi. You know, and there's a slight little bit of a variation or update or whatever they did, but he doesn't look like bat ears like the Discovery Ferengi. The Discovery Ferengi looked ridiculous. This scene is actually really well done, I thought. And it's our introduction to Wharf. As we expected, we see Wharf. This is another one of those. There's a bunch of scenes in this episode that are like, that's a great scene. That's a great scene. That's a great moment. That's a great moment. That's a great moment. There's like ding, 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 ding. There's like a whole bunch of that in this episode, and this is one of them. He makes her take the drugs. It's kind of uncomfortable, obviously, and then it's like you find out, oh, he's just gonna kill you now, Raffi, and Raffi's in trouble. And Worf shows up, and this is like wrestling. When you put a big baby face with somebody else who the crowd hasn't accepted yet, you put him with a big baby face, to get them over. And coming from the wrestling world, that's what this reminds me of, Hey, everybody hates Raffi. Well, guess what? Who doesn't? Everyone loves Worf to death. Well, guess what? Worf is going to come save Raffi, and he's with Raffi. So now you start to, you know what I mean? Like, it's a great, oh my God, they made such a great decision by doing this. Worf shows up, he cuts this guy's head off. And by the way, that's the big complaint now, is that Worf just cut a guy's head off and all this other stuff. It's like, dude, you can't win. Worf says, I'm now a pacifist. Everyone loses their mind. Oh, my God, what did they do to Worf? He's a pacifist? Now he cuts a guy's head off, and they're like, oh, my God, he shouldn't be doing that. Quite honestly, I think I believe Worf cutting people's heads off over the pacifist thing. So I'm happy that they went with that. Now, in his mind, he might be trying to be a pacifist and more like a monk and trying to avoid conflict if he can. But certainly, if you try to kill somebody, he will kill you. He's like Texas. Worf is Texas. You try to kill us, we'll kill you right back. But he's also probably a monk and ninja-like and all whatever else is going on with Worf. So hopefully Worf is cool. I hope they may not bring up that he was ever the captain of an Enterprise or those type of things, which is fine with me. I wish he was captain for like 3 months or 2 months or a second, where he could be like, I took command and that wasn't for me. I've always operated best in the shadows, or that sort of thing. Maybe they don't, though. I don't know. But either way, he shows up, saves Raffi. And he says something like, I told you not to come here, or whatever, that sort of thing. And I love it. We're seeing Worf. I mean, how good does Michael Dorn look, too, by the way? Oh, it's pretty cool, man. We only get him for a second. But, yeah, so he went full Elnor. He went full Elnor on that guy. And they tried to do this with Elnor. Please, friend, choose life. Choose to live, or whatever. Oh, he cuts the guy's head off. I always thought that was a little crazy, but it was also kind of a good idea. You know what I mean? Like, I liked the idea that he was monkish too. And he was like, please choose life. I don't want to have to kill you. Don't try to kill my friend or I'll have to kill you, and I don't want to do that. But it didn't work because he was such a new character, and plus the show writing and everything else. If Elnor was on this show, he'd probably be okay. But also, listen, Worf has so much backstory and history and whatever that he can do this because he's got that character, just years, decades of character. So anyway, we go back to the face-off with the Titan and the Shrike, and Jack escapes in a such a Star Trek way, escapes captivity. And then Vatic chimes in to basically like F with them. Like, you got 30 minutes left. I'm crazy. Jack then escapes, tries to get off the ship, and we find out he's not trying to run away from everybody to get away. He's trying to beam himself and give himself up so that everybody else doesn't get hurt. Probably mostly his mother, but everybody. Like, they want me. I'm going to get out. I'm going to give them me so that they don't hurt all these people and my mother, I'm assuming. So that's a great thing to see from that character, and that's something Picard would do, and that's something that probably Beverly would do. So it's just like, it makes perfect sense. And then we get another one of those moments. We talked a lot about the moments. The ship beaming in to cut off the tractor beam. There's a bunch of other ones I'm forgetting. But then the Ferengi scene with, is his name Sneed or something like that? I forget his name now. Great scene. And we get another one of these moments when Picard is thinking about this, and Liam Shaw, Captain Shaw, is basically like, well, we're just going to let him go. He's a fugitive. He's a bad person. We're not going to let all the people on the ship die for some random guy who's basically a criminal. And Picard thinks about it like, okay. And he's contemplating what, like, who is he really? Like, I don't know. He hasn't really hit him yet. But then Riker goes to the med bay earlier on. I skipped that and didn't talk about it. And he wakes Beverly up, against the doctor's orders. Probably because they need to shed light on who Jack is and what's really going on here. And so I'm sure she informs Riker at this point about what's going on the way there. I'm assuming, I'm building that in my own head, that he knows, and they've been talking as they're walking. And she shows up on the bridge and looks at, this is amazing, by the way. This is really amazing. With a look. She holds on to the railing. She's hurt, still obviously just woken up out of the med bay. She looks across at Picard. They cut to Picard, and he's in shock right here, like, oh. And he's looking at her. And this is him asking her, with his face, looking at her, asking her, trying to figure out what's going on here. And they cut back to Beverly. And my God, bro, they start zooming in on her right here. And she's got this look on her face, and she looks down here almost in shame, like it's a look away. He's looking right at her. And she's looking right at him, and then she looks away. This is sort of a shame, like, look. And then she just can't look at him. She doesn't look at him. She's looking down and away, and she can't look at him. And that's when then they cut back to him, and that's when he kind of realizes, right here, because her looking away from him is when he goes, oh my God, it's true. And his mouth opens. And then he thinks about it for a second as his mouth is left open. And then she finally, right there, raises her eyes and looks back at him to see what he looks like. And she can see the look on his face. And she's like, yes, like yes, that's right. You get it. You got it. And when she looks at him and she's like crying almost. And my God, bro, this scene is unreal, bro. And then back to Picard again. They cut back to Picard again. And now he's fully aware. You know what I mean? And that confirms it. And he closes his eyes right here. I mean, dude, bro, this scene is one of those holy shit moments. And then one of the best things, another holy shit moment happens from this. And that's we literally get Picard back. The Picard that we all know. Comes back. He goes right into Picard mode.
Relay that. Admiral's orders. Lock it down. Shuttles. Transporters. The boy stays here.
And then, now Beverly's got a kind of a smile on her face. Riker realizes what's up. Picard's in full Picard mode.
You are going to get us all killed. Why are you doing this?
And it's like Shaw doesn't understand. It's weird because Shaw is trying to assert his alphaness as the captain, but he's still giving room for Picard. Like, why are you doing this? He didn't say, no, I disagree, Admiral. It's my ship. No, no, no. He said, why are you doing this? Because you're seeing that alpha come down, and you're seeing him sort of step aside a little bit Why are you doing this? Not you can't do this and no, you're not doing this. Why are you doing this? So you're seeing that. And then the ultimate boom, like, you know.
Because he's my son.
The music is fire here, by the way. Insanely good music cues. And holy crap, bro.
God damn it.
And dude, this scene nails it. And Shaw basically says, okay, you're the captain now. He goes, whatever happens, it's on you. Because you've taken over anyway, so whatever whatever is on you. So we get Picard back, essentially, here. And Picard sends them, they fire at the Shrike and take off into the nebula. I mean, bro, what a crazy ending. And Amanda Plummer is actually, and also like acting like a psycho. She's like, she's out of her mind. Awesome. And there's so many things that I'm missing right now and so much more to talk about, but I'm not going to do it right here. And I'm just going to tell you that episode 1 was a nice beginning to end, slow introduction into the season. They kind of get right into it, but it's a different pacing. This one has these punches, you know? There's just these punches in this one, things that hit hard. Like, and if you watch episode 1 and 2 together, if you'd seen them both together, you would have been like, wow, I am in on this show. Seeing episode 1, you were kind of like, all right, it seems to be pretty cool. Let's see what happens next. But if you see 1 and 2 back to back, you're like, oh, I got to know what's happening next. And I don't like continuous Star Trek stories, usually, right? I don't like that. But this really does. You know, they said Picard season 1 and 2, they're like movies. No, they're not. They're trash. Season 2 is ass. So this feels maybe like a movie that's like 10 hours long. It's almost like like a long, I don't know, 2 or 3 part movie, I guess. 3, 6, 9. That's 3 hour three hour movies. Although it's a little longer than that, but do you know what I mean? And if that's what we're in for, like, I'm buying this on Blu-ray. If this is going to be good, like it is, and it keeps getting the same or better, bro, this is going to be sitting on my Blu-ray rack. I haven't bought a Blu-ray in 2 years or 3 years or something. I would never buy Picard seasons 1 and 2 on Blu-ray. I will buy this on Blu-ray. Man, I don't even know where to begin with. I mean, dude, what are the negatives? They get a couple technobabble terms wrong, like every Star Trek ever has. It's dark, a little too dark. I'm sticking to that. I'm sorry, and I think the directors and the set designers and everybody are really good. I really do like them a lot. I'm cheering for them. I do wish there was some incorporation of carpet. I know that sounds crazy. I know the guy is blocking people on Twitter who keep saying that. Listen, if you can't get over that there's no carpet and you're like attacking the guy like, what the fuck is that? It's like, I don't understand that at this point. I don't get it. It's already over. They've already done it. There's no carpet. Get over that at that point. I don't like it either, but it's not bad either. I don't think. So what's the big deal? There's some swearing. Don't like that. It's a little dark. There's some things, little tiny little technobabbly things here, like not much really, that is questionable. It's a little violent, right? But it's like a movie, a Star Trek movie. And Picard in First Contact has a machine gun or a Tommy gun or something. Like he was so out of character in that movie, kind of. But he had that mental distress from the Borg. So anyway. My point is that the positives are far outweighing the negatives right now. Whereas in Picard season 1, the only positive was seeing Data and Picard on screen together a couple times. Those were all great scenes. Everything else was just awful. And season 2 was awful too. So, that being said, I'm going to give this episode, I don't know, man. I want to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I'm going to give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. And I gave the first episode a 7. So right now we're averaging about a 7.2 for the season, which is the best rating for Star Trek I think I've given. I think I might have given Strange New Worlds a 7, a 7, maybe 1 7 or a couple 7s, and then I gave it a lot of 6s. So this is really good news. That's what I think about Episode 2, Star Trek, Picard Season 3, Episode 2. What did you think about it? And what did I miss? And what did I not talk about that you want to talk about? Whether it be negatives or positives or whatever from this that I didn't speak about. If anybody is watching the video, and you guys can subscribe for more videos. But also, write some comments so that I can read them and I can follow up in the next video. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I do have a feeling that the next episode is obviously going to be the big space battle, it looks like, potentially. Or there's going to be some kind of derailment into some other story, and then we'll come back to the space battle, and maybe we're coming up to that Crimson Tide, Hunt for Red October type of stuff that Terry Matalas talked about, because they're about to go into some sort of cat and mouse or a cool situation. And what an I don't know, man. I'm pretty interested in it anyway. But we'll see what happens. I hope you guys subscribe. Here's some other videos popping up that you might have missed.